Okay, this is going to be Unit 1, Lecture 1. We're going to discuss the course introduction and start off the course with a brief discussion of exploration and a deeper and more detailed conversation about explanation and the reasons and patterns for and of colonization. All right, so some things to keep in mind while you watch this presentation or any of the presentations throughout the year. I want you to keep your study guide handy so you have the vocab up front and the key concepts so you know what you should be looking for when you are listening. All right, and I'll try and put up some slides throughout the presentation to link to vocab and big ideas. Some big questions to keep in mind during this presentation, things you'll need to know the answers for. One, why did Europeans settle in the English colonies? Two, how did their motivations influence their settlement patterns and colonial structure? And three, in what ways did the cultures of Europe, Africa, and the Americas interact, and what were the consequences of these interactions? Okay, so those are three big questions. And we're going to go a brief overview of colonization today. I'm going to go more specifically in each colonies throughout this throughout the unit. All right, and we're going to specifically focus for the most part on English colonies in the New World. All right, so legend has it, the story has it, history says it is so. Columbus sails the ocean blue in 1492. This is who we credit with the discovery of America, and this is when we say he did it. So that would be the answer on a quiz. I and many historians have a problem with this, a number of problems with this. First, millions of people already lived here and had for thousands of years. Native Americans, or who we call Native Americans, crossed over from Asia more than 15,000 years ago on a land bridge. You should know that too. So the Native Americans followed big game over across a land bridge during the last ice age. So it's hard to discover something if millions of people already live here. It'd be like me pulling up to your front yard with an RV and a flag, getting out, sticking my flag in the ground, saying, I claim this land, I've discovered it. All right. Second, other Europeans knew of the existence of the Americas. The Vikings had tried and failed to colonize earlier on, and a lot of the fishermen knew of the Grand Banks and stuff out there and the coast. They'd been this way. All right, so America was known. So the discovery is a little hard to swallow. Anyhow, this discovery by Columbus leads to a redistribution, a movement of the world's peoples. All right, and Spain and Portugal are going to lead the way with this. Okay, and they're also going to be getting very rich from their explorations, which will motivate others. Okay, so some things to keep in mind, some very, very important things to keep in mind when we're discussing and I'm quizzing or testing you on exploration and colonization are the motivations. All right, explorers go for three reasons. They go for what we call the three G's: gold, God, and glory. Very different from colonists who plan on staying. Okay, colonists bring family, they're coming permanently, they're coming for opportunity or freedom, whether it's economic, the chance to own land and make money, or religious or political freedom. So it's very, very different. You read your questions carefully, you know what you're being asked. Some big terms we need to know here. The Columbian Exchange, okay? This is the term given to the exchange of goods and ideas between the Old World, which is Europe, remember that Old World equals Europe, and the New World, the Americas. All right, so the movement of goods and ideas between the two, things like sugar, pigs, horses, guns, and the wheel come from Europe to America, and things like corn, tobacco, tomatoes, and potatoes go from America, from the Americas, both North and South, to Europe. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're quizzed on it. There's no spaghetti sauce in Italy till Columbus. There's no potato in Ireland until Columbus. All right, so there's a big changes going on, especially in diets after the discovery of the New World, and that's something we should talk about in class. It's a big deal. All right. Now, diseases are going to go both ways on this exchange, with smallpox and the other more deadly diseases going from Europe to the Americas. And they like to ask this on the SOL and other tests. This is the biggest tragedy of the discovery of the New World. Millions and millions and millions of Native Americans are going to die from European disease. Okay. The one that you have to know that comes from the New World to the Old World is syphilis. Okay. So, as we expand a little bit, a quick look at reasons people move to the New World. All right, and we're going to simplify it down to two biggies, but I want you to get some ideas why people would leave their homes and face the dangers of the unknown, and risk everything for a new start. And the reasons people move that motivate immigration are called push and pull factors, all right? And we're going to talk about immigration throughout the whole course, and you should be aware of push and pull factors. Push factors, things that push people out of their homes, are generally bad. Things like the potato famine in Ireland in the 1840s. Things that pull people to a new world are generally good. Opportunity, the ability to own land, social mobility, to change one's position in society. All right, so they'll pull you out. All right, so we're going to go through six or seven quick reasons. All right, we're going to see in Europe at this time, number one, a population increase. All right, so overpopulation leads many to leave their homes to seek opportunity elsewhere. All right, now keep in mind this happens because the economy of Europe at this time is agriculturally based. All right, so it requires land ownership, and wealth is measured in land ownership. There's no available land in Europe. Okay, so there's no opportunity to change one's position. That's number one. Two is the enclosure movement. Landlords in Britain at this time, large landholders, the wealthy, realize they can make more money raising sheep and livestock than they can renting land to tenants. So they throw people off their property and enclose great areas of land to raise sheep. All right, forcing those people then to seek other opportunities. Religion is another motivator. The Reformation is still in full swing, and challenges to traditional religious or accepted religious thought lead people to look for places they can practice their beliefs in peace. Okay, primogeniture. The eldest son inherits everything to keep farms at a livable size, all right, to keep enough property and wealth in the family to support it. So this forces second and third sons to seek opportunity elsewhere. Five is, of course, economic opportunity. In the New World, there is plenty of land, and people are going to go for a chance to own that land. And six, this one's more specific to Georgia than most other places, but it's a second chance for debtors or prisoners, all right, to start over. All right, various governments in Europe are going to utilize a number of different strategies and techniques to motivate people to move and to start colonies here. All right, and the four big European colonizers that you have to know for North America are going to be the English, of course, the Spanish, the French, and the Dutch. Okay. Now, Spain and England will sponsor and directly fund colonization. Spain almost exclusively does that. All right, that's how they colonize all of South America and Central America. England will do this fragmented. Some colonies will be directly funded and run by the monarchy. Others, England will utilize the joint stock company. All right, so that the Crown doesn't have to absorb the full risk and cost. All right, and we'll go into that more in class, the joint stock company. French will establish trading posts. They come over in much fewer numbers than the English and the Spanish, so they get along, and this is important because they come over in small numbers. They're forced to get along with the Native Americans much better. All right, and they interact with them much more. All right, and this is trivia that they like to throw on the SOL. Which European nation got along better with Native Americans? The French, okay? And the Spanish, or at least the Catholic Church, Spanish Catholic Church, will establish missions throughout the Southwest of Mexico. The Alamo is a famous one of these. All right, so those are some of the ways that European nations implement colonization or structure colonization. All right, but like I said earlier, for the most part, we're going to focus on England. With that, the first permanent, lasting English colony in the New World is Jamestown. All right, I'll give you extra credit on your next quiz if somebody can give me a paragraph on the first attempt, a very famous attempt that failed, and some of the mystery that goes with that. Okay, 10 points on a quiz. All right, so Jamestown's the first permanent English settlement in the New World. Jamestown, like the rest of the South, and this is important, is founded itself for economic opportunity. People came to make money. All right, so the first colony in the New World that's permanent, that's English, is all about the money. All right, it's founded in 1607 by the Virginia Company of London. So do not tell me on a quiz or a test that Jamestown is founded by John Smith or John Rolfe. It's not. It's saved by both of them in a different way, but it's founded by the Virginia Company of London, which is given a charter, which is a document from the king allowing them to form the colony and granting those people that come here the rights of Englishmen, which is why the colonists, all the way up to the Revolution, consider themselves Englishmen. All right, in 1619, another very important date, the first Africans are imported to work on tobacco farms. All right, also the Virginia House of Burgesses is going to be established, which is the first example of representative democracy in the New World. Today it's the Virginia General Assembly. All right, so that's some important vocab, the House of Burgesses, okay? The first Africans in 1619, they're going to say, came over as indentured servants. I'm not so sure about that. Important names to know: John Smith. He has a very famous motto: if you don't work, you don't eat. He's going to help save the colony. John Rolfe really saves the colony because he'll develop a strain of tobacco that is commercially viable, which gets the colony off the ground. It makes money. All right, Cavaliers are English noblemen who get large land grants from the king in the Tidewater, in the eastern side of the mountains. Indentured servants are people who could not afford the voyage over, so they sign a contract and they'll work for somebody else, usually for 7 years, and in return for that they get the trip over to the New World, and at the end of their service they get 50 acres. Most indentured servants don't survive to receive their reward. All right, so that's Jamestown. Like I said, we're going to go into more colonies or the specific colonies in more detail later on in the unit. New England, then, is going to be founded for religious freedom, kind of, for themselves. All right, they found the colonies for religious freedom for themselves, not for anybody else. They're very, very intolerant of other beliefs at first. Okay, the first group in New England are going to be the Pilgrims, who land in Plymouth in about 1620. The Pilgrims are a group of Puritans, part of the Anglican Church or Church of England, who thought the church was still too Catholic, who hadn't reformed enough. The church hadn't reformed enough during the Reformation, changed enough. So they wanted to separate from the church. So Pilgrims are separatists, okay? They came over on the Mayflower, and before they even got off the boat, the men gathered on the Mayflower and wrote the Mayflower Compact, which is the promise to respect the laws they made for their community, that they will make for their community. Right? The Puritans are going to come over later. They'll form Massachusetts Bay Colony, and they'll absorb the Pilgrims into their colony. Plymouth will be absorbed into Massachusetts Bay later on. They want to purify or improve the Church of England. All right, they practice direct democracy. All right, in town hall meetings. That's important, and they establish a covenant community based on the principles of the Mayflower Compact and Puritan religious beliefs. So, just as an intro, right away we have 1607 Virginia, 1620 Massachusetts, and we end up with two types of democracy. And the type of democracy formed in the different regions has a lot to do with the geography of those regions. In the South, people are going to be spread out on large farms. So they're not going to be able to participate directly. So they elect representatives to make laws for them, to handle that business for them. In New England, the soil's rocky and poor, so it leads to the development of towns where people live close together and allows for the people of the town to go to town hall meetings and participate directly in democracy. Okay? Those are important distinctions, very important to know, and sometimes we refer to direct democracy as Athenian democracy because it comes out of Athens, Greece. Right? The middle colonies, as they form, are going to be a blend of the other two. Much more religiously diverse, much more economic opportunity, and many, many more different people are going to settle in the middle. We're going to see lots of English, Dutch, and German settlers. All right, and that for the most part is lecture one. We should talk a little bit about effects of colonization, big scheme things. We'll see worldwide commercial expansion. Commerce is trade. So we're going to see trade between continents and goods, ideas, and people. All right, the slave trade is the trade in people. The Columbian exchange is going to be goods and ideas. We're going to see in the long term, the development of representative democracy, representative government, a continuation of our English heritage, okay? We're going to see the development of religious freedom and those ideas that are going to be so important to be ingrained in our documents. We're going to see the loss of land and life for Native Americans, millions through disease. We're going to see the development of a strong belief in private ownership and private property. And in the South and the Caribbean, we're going to see the development of an agricultural economy that's based in slavery. All right, so that's the end of Unit 1, Lecture 1. Be continued with Lecture 2 later on this week.